Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I am your lead host, Andre Howard. Delighted to have with me my co-hosts, Dr. Loretta Howard, and Dr. Cheryl White is out today. And we have a wonderful guest with us today to join us, the great Dennis C. Miller, exploring the nonprofit 3.0 when crisis becomes the catalyst for change is our topic today, and really thinking about the changing times and is the nonprofit sector keeping up with the changing times? And so we're going to explore that today, and I will introduce Dennis C. Miller in just a moment in a bit more detail. But as we always do with our show, we want to encourage you to continue to send in those questions, wonderful questions we've been getting from our audience. And what we'll do is conversation starter questions. We have two for today. I'm going to ask the first one and then give my co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard, an opportunity to respond. And then I'm going to give Dennis Miller an opportunity to also chime in. So again, thank you for those questions. Continue to send in those questions as well. So our first audience question today is, are nonprofits still the best solution for society's problems? Or are we clinging on to an outdated model? Great question. Are nonprofits still the best solution for society's problems today, or are we just simply clinging on to an outdated model? Dr. Loretta, what do you think?
Wow, what a great question. And it did make me really think because I feel nonprofits definitely have their own unique niche in what helps our society. And I do believe that we need to have nonprofits. It's just a matter of sometimes I think they have to be willing to change certain things with the times, not the mission, because if you have a wonderful mission, you want to stay within that mission. But when I look at things like the technology that's changed, maybe the skill set and the people that they hire has changed. But I feel like nonprofits, they continue to serve a very vital and important role in our society. So don't get rid of the model and the mission, but definitely hire people or train people or get them the skill sets that they need to keep up with some of the changes that are going on, especially when it comes to technology and things like that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Loretta. Dennis, how about you? You want to take a spin at that question?
Yeah, I think, well, the term nonprofit has a lot of, definition. Is it just tax-free, non-taxable? When we think of nonprofits, we usually think about food banks, affordable housing, but nonprofit is big college university system is a nonprofit, and healthcare systems could be $1 billion worth of revenue in nonprofits. So usually we don't think about that, but I think they serve a great purpose in our society. Certainly, you think about food banks, what's going on lately. I mean, it's affordable housing, a number of people that are hungry and are homeless.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think there's some need to make a lot of changes, Andre, and I think there's somewhat resistant in the system itself because of, well, how will I get funded? Or that's not my competencies or skills. And as Dr. Loretta was mentioning, I think there's the competencies and skills that are important for a mission-driven organization, but for an organization that should have a compelling, inspirational vision is sometimes lacking. So there's missing between mission and vision is a big issue from my perspective right now.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dennis. That's excellent. Yeah, and I would just add to what both of you have stated. Again, I think nonprofits, we do need them because they do well in terms of understanding deep community knowledge and trust,
Yeah.
the ability to innovate, pilot solutions, mission-driven advocacy, and a watchdog function that they sometimes perform. But certainly, as of recent, lots of strains in the system around funding, fragmentation, limited scalability, I think would be the other piece I would add to that. So, I think as we talk about our topic today about Nonprofit 3.0, the next iteration, perhaps this evolving landscape looks like maybe more of a hybrid model that combines, the nonprofit mission focus with the business sustainability, perhaps, or more investment in the prevention rather than just the intervention. And systems thinking. We talk about systems change, and systems change is huge, but certainly thinking about how we as a collective certainly tackle that systems piece. So yeah, so thank you both for that response. Again, thank you, audience, for that question. We've got another question coming up in our upcoming hour as well, so appreciate that. Again, our focus today is really the 3.0. Is it time for change? Today's constraints are certainly forcing the innovation that nonprofits have embraced. Crises are certainly pushing our nonprofit sector to the edge. Remote work, digital delivery, cross-sector partnerships, the old normal, and so challenging the old normal. And is it time to change? And so the critical question we are going to examine in this episode is, can nonprofits sustain and scale innovations born from necessity, or will they simply just revert to their old patterns? And we've got just the guest to help us kind of flesh through that. Our wonderful guest, Dennis C. Miller, who brings over 4 decades of nonprofit leadership expertise as chair and CEO of the DCM Center for Nonprofit Governance and Leadership. Been doing that since 2007 to 2024. He's founded and led DCM Associates, a nationally recognized executive search firm specializing in nonprofit CEO and C-suite placements. And he has served previously in various roles to include CEO of Somerset Medical Center and Foundation, earning numerous honors, including the Fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives. Dennis holds a degree from Rutgers University, Master's in Public Health Administration from Columbia. And we are so very glad and pleased to have you on the show with us today, Dennis.
Is that all? Is that true?
I
Oh
could
yeah, I did go to Rutgers.
I could go on, but Dennis, that would take up the whole show.
I thought you were talking about somebody else for a while, Mike. So many awards. I don't remember getting any of those, but I guess I did.
Okay. Well, with that said, Dennis, why don't you share just a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey?
I'd be happy to.
Yes.
So I was about 65 years old, and I had I had been a hospital CEO, I'd been a board chair, graduated from Rutgers and Columbia, and raised a lot of money and did all these things, but I had kept a secret my whole life, and my wife knew, but I didn't share my life experience with anybody. And then I decided to do that, and I wrote a book, my autobiography, called Mopping Floors, the CEO, From Hopelessness and Failure to Happiness and Success. And really what it was that I grew up in a very difficult time. I didn't know how difficult it was. In a family was a lot of emotional abuse and trauma. My dad was a talented man, but certainly had, I learned later in life, personality issues, maybe gender issues, but just a horrible, and it came from his mother, kind of everything had to be perfect, nothing could be out of place, everything had to look right. My mother would say, guys, it's 5 o'clock, your father doesn't want you playing in the backyard on the grass, and he wants you playing, rather have you play in the street because he wants to see how good the grass looks. Mm. So I, went through Catholic and public school. I did the same thing in high school, and I graduated, and I was a varsity football player, which was my dream and my goal. I loved playing varsity football. I loved running out there with the eye black on and all that stuff and tackling people, the cheers and screaming, the band playing and all that. And I got the lead in the high school play, and was asked by my homeroom teacher to be the MC of the school's variety show because he knew I was funny. But I think I bombed, because it's one thing about being funny with your friends, another thing being funny on stage. Right. But my background was just that I didn't get into any college. My grades were really bad. I did get into county college. And I graduated county college. during the Vietnam era, and it was kind of a difficult time in our country, a difficult time for me. Kind of wondering why. I mean, I was very supportive of our soldiers, but why were we there? By the time I was 20, I was very distraught, despondent, depressed, and self-admitted myself. Asked my parents to take me to a private hospital, psychiatric hospital. I went to a private hospital, and what happened was a priest came to visit me from my mother's parish. My mother was a Irish Catholic, and that's how I was brought up. And I was, I think, eventually let out, I guess, 2 months afterwards. I remember in the same condition I went in, no medicine, no follow-up.
Right.
And I knocked on the priest's door and I cried my eyes out.
Mm.
And first time I ever cried to anybody, and I couldn't take it anymore. And he used to hold my hands and listen to me and be my supporter. And I used to try to throw pebbles out the top of the window of the rectory and sometimes sit in front of the church. But he was very comforting. And then he got me into a day hospital program in a regional town mental health center. And I was first time in 21 years old, feeling cared for, began to like myself from the dislike of myself that I had and the sense of being a loser and a failure. And began to want to go to the library and read books and devour books. And that's what started my path. But that was where I was. That's where I was.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Great.
a long time ago, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was true.
Powerful story. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful. Dennis, I know we're coming up on a break, but before we go to break, the question that I have for you, or I want you to think about is, since you've been a nonprofit for over 4 decades, so when you think about pre-2020, and I guess I want to say pre-COVID operations to today, what is the single biggest shift that surprises you?
Well, two things come to mind. One is that I think pre-2020, pre-COVID, I think people, nonprofits relied upon the big gala for their fundraiser. It was an event in person, um, and I think that those galas weren't allowed to happen, and so things went more digital, more social media, and that was a big change. I think the other big change, Loretta, is the competencies and skills are different today or need to be than they were. So what I mean by that is this. What we call nonprofit organization would hire a person who was mission driven, grant writer, program developer, good community relationship skills. That's what the board wanted. And the board set the vision and they wanted the executive director to implement it. Today, though, boards are seeking visionary thinkers, collaborators, relationship builders, entrepreneurs, brand builders. They look for people to be thought leaders, very different of what they're looking for. And I think that's a big difference between now and 2020.
Yeah. Great.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Definitely. Certainly things have changed. Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're going to go to
I got less hair in my head. That's changed, definitely. I know.
just a little less, just a little less. But hold on to that thought. We've got much more coming up from our wonderful guest, Dennis C. Miller. We want to go and delve into this whole 3.0 version of the nonprofit. And so we're going to take a short break. And when we return, Dennis is going to share more about this 3.0 version of the nonprofit world. So please stay tuned. And we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. For those of you who are just joining, I am Andre Howard, Dr. Dre, along with my co-host today, Dr. Loretta Howard. And with us today is a wonderful guest, Dennis C. Miller, as we continue to explore this nonprofit 3.0, the changing times. What's the necessity for the nonprofit sector to kind of change as part of that process? Dennis, you've been sharing so much with us, and again, we love the history that you shared in terms of
Mhm.
some of your own values. I think many nonprofits probably discovered during the COVID series and other crises that sometimes long-standing practices were really inefficient and out of touch. Can you share a specific sacred cow from your own past experience that you kind of let go of and what happened?
Yeah, I think that I got a lot of sacred cows. I think one of them is mission is why the nonprofits exist. It's if you ask someone what's your mission statement, it's what's your purpose, why do you exist? And I think that remains important. But from my experience, certainly over the past 5, 10 years, what I've observed, which needs to change, is if you ask most nonprofit leaders or board members or anybody, what's the vision of your organization? It sounds like a very simple question to answer. Yeah, it's very difficult for most people to answer. And so I get sometimes, yeah, we want every child to be happy and healthy. And I say, it's wonderful, but how do you measure that?
Mm.
And so I think, and there's a great vision gentleman, his name is Bert Nanas, Nanus. He wrote a wonderful book called Visionary Leadership. And I'm kind of a follower of his, if that's a bit right.
Yeah.
And he described vision as a future direction of your organization that's more desirable, more successful than today.
Mm.
But it should be credible, attractive, realistic, ambitious,
Mm.
but measurable.
Mm.
And so you should be able to be in a nonprofit organization, and though you know what your mission is, most people don't have a problem with that, but be able to articulate to everybody where we're headed and why we want it, why that is a good direction for us to take. And I can give you an example with myself. And that's a challenge for people. And I find um, so many organizations, they're well-meaning and some are great, but there's no strategic alignment between the people on the board about achieving something. They're like doing their own thing. And I'm not going to mention its name, but we did a leadership development program for a prestigious behavioral healthcare center, and we'll call it the Midwest, okay? Midwest. And before we brought in, and the CEO, the great person, had been the COO or chief clinical officer, but when she took over this job, people would like in their own thing. So finance was here, development here, healthcare here, nursing. Everybody had their own thing and did their own thing and didn't talk to each other, and had to create a compelling vision for the organization, and get people aligned so they begin to realize, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the same team. So if you want to think about an 11-player football team coming out of the huddle, but 5 go to the one dugout and 6 go to another one, and you're not tackling for people. So so that's a big issue for me, for that here.
Yeah, sure.
That's a big issue.
Yeah,
Is
right.
you want to be able to inspire people.
Absolutely.
And I think in creating a vision that will excite and motivate people because it's better than today, I think is a great thing, but I think it's the biggest issue that's lacking right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate that.
Great, thank you. I really enjoyed what you were saying, Dennis. It made me think about a book from years ago in a past career life where they talked about how people and organizations worked in silos and they
Yes.
weren't able to just like help each other because they didn't know. So I know where I volunteer now, that's one of the things we've been talking about, cross-training people. They need to know what the others have to do. So that is really important because everybody's in their little fiefdom and they are working on it.
And I don't blame them because that's
Right.
survival, but I blame,
Right.
well, not leaders today need to make sure, if you look at, need to make sure that everybody understands where you want to go.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're going to drive a car down the highway with your doors open and no seatbelts on.
Yeah, okay. And that's a vision to think of. Okay. It is. All
And
right.
so you think the odds of not getting an accident are slim and none.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, let me go on to the next question because we could stop and talk all day and forget that
Right.
there's even an audience out here listening to us. Okay, there are some people who think that nonprofits actually needed to have a crisis to force them to do things that for-profit organizations probably would have made changes to years ago. So do you think our nonprofit sector has been too resistant to innovation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not everybody clearly, but I think, um, yes, I think generally speaking, I've been resistant to change. I think, if you've been in the non-public sector for 20 or 25 years, you may be stuck in your model and not realizing that you're not having the impact that you want, but you're just keeping your job, but you're not making a difference. And one of the things that I promised myself and to my colleagues and our clients around the country is to talk more about and ask people, what is the impact you're having? And how would you measure your impact? So one of the little things I call the 50% rule, that or 50% rule. And what do I mean by that? So typically, and it's great, boards have a committee, so your executive director may give an update at the board meeting. Hopefully they're not reading what they sent out, but that's another story. And certainly a approve of the minutes and the financial report and the facilities and the programs and the donors report. But and that's important to have committees give updates. But what I do believe, and I'm adamant about this, is this, and I can tell you a story, is that there should be a question, I think, at every board meeting, well, most of them, 80% of them, where it's prearranged to say, okay, today we're going to talk about, no, we got the committee reports. And so, and the board chair is going to ask, make sure everybody speaks, because there's always two people on the board that don't shut up like me, and two people don't say anything.
Right.
So today we're going to say, okay, we're going to talk about, so, what's the impact we're having? How about this? What's the value we provide to our community? And have a conversation with, okay, John, Jane, Jim, Shelley, what do you think? And have the board engage in that conversation as much as possible. Clearly, how do we measure our success as a board? Our value, but and clearly about what's our image in the community? What do people think when they hear ABC? What do they think? And do we distinguish ourselves enough or not? And then another question sometimes is, right, why are we worthy of a gift? What's so good about us that we're worthy of a gift? So I believe we need to change the mindset to be a more effective sector. And I do believe without this sector, we'd be struggling. So I believe the independent sector is vital. But I do think we need to change how we go about thinking about it and how we talk about it and how we're motivated about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Dennis. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Change is hard. Change
It
is
is
hard.
hard. It is hard. It is hard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It is very uncomfortable. Yeah. We get very lax in our own present realities. Absolutely. So Dennis, this 3.0 we've been talking about, this nonprofit 3.0, real transformation, or is it just crisis adaptation with a fancy label? I mean, how do we know the difference between this nonprofit 3.0, this future place we need to be as a sector in terms of transformation versus we're just kind of adapting through crisis and not really changing much? I mean,
Yeah,
how
I
do we
think
know
it's a
the
little,
difference?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I
Yeah.
do think we need to change. I think that there's often resistance to change. I mean, there's a lot of innovative change taking place. And some organizations, again, that are doing the right thing. I mean, I think about the work that I've done around the country with Make-A-Wish. I mean, what a beautiful organization to help a child that has a life-threatening issue to have a wish granted, and that family, and that's impactful.
Yeah.
And yes, homelessness and no food and homeless and all that. Yes. However, and I don't mean to be disparaging, but sometimes I can't. What's the difference between what United Way does, what Big Brothers Big Sisters do, what Girl Scouts does, what this one does, what the Salvation Army, what's the difference? And I think there's not enough differentiation, and I don't think there's enough just that. And I think part of it is too, you know, AI. I mean, AI is taking
Right.
a whole nother picture here. I mean, I even use AI now when I,
Mhm.
write an article or blog or even a book. I go and put into AI and it comes back
Right.
maybe with a little better paragraph than I had. But,
Right. Right.
and I think that as a whole, I think one of the things that we, and I say we, you and I and everybody else, I think has to have more measurable goals. And I think in many ways be held more accountable.
Mm.
And I think, and just from my experience, again, whatever the number is, 1.5, 1.8, 1.9 million nonprofits in this country alone, that's a lot.
Mm.
And if you think 10 people on a board, that's 20 million people, 30 million people. But with the exception of a few places, there's no real board training.
Yeah.
There's some organizations do it, but we do it and you do it. But
Right.
so I just think between AI and measurable goals and impact here, yeah, I think 3.0. I think 3.0 is when I'll say this. I don't know if you know, there was a great book that was written almost 2 decades ago called Reframing the Work of the Board,
Mm.
Governance as Leadership by Richard Chait, Barbara Taylor, and William Ryan, I think. 3 people from Harvard. I remember this. And it got very technical, so I was speed reading it because this is when I stepped down as the president of the Medical Center. But it dawned on me about this, and I'll just stop. They talk about the stages of governance, board governance. So yes, everybody knows the first stage, founding board. We all know what a founding board is. You found an organization, and then you got eventually hires. And the fiduciary response. Everybody knows. Make sure that your mission is clean and no conflict of interest on. And then boards evolved and became more strategic advice. So everybody gave you advice, strategic plan, financial plan, but everybody became all in favor side. Everybody approved the plan.
Yeah.
But really what's needed and what they recommended, which I believe and I'm passionate about, was when the board and leadership are in partnership. And that's a new step for us to take. When the board feels they own the vision as much as the CEO does, they feel they own the organization as much as anybody else. That to me is a big step for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Yeah. Love it. Thanks, Dennis. We're going to take a break. I mean, this is just a
Yeah.
fascinating conversation, and we're going to delve more into it. And on the other side, Dr. Loretta is going to lead us with Dennis Miller into some discussion around next steps and really future thinking about this nonprofit 3.0. So we're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll hear more about that. But please stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. We are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And for those of you who are just joining, I'm your host, Dr. Dre, along with my co-host, Dr. Loretta, and our other co-host who's typically with us, Dr. Cheryl White, is out for the day, but we've got a wonderful guest who's been really just breaking down some wonderful knowledge around this nonprofit 3.0, the great Dennis C. Miller. Before we move on, I want to get to our second audience question. And again, we want to encourage our audience to continue to send those questions in. And you can send that in to Leadership Matters Questions at innovisions.org. Leadership Matters Questions at innovisions.org. So keep sending those wonderful questions in. But here's our second question from the audience. Here it is. Are nonprofits society's safety net or its innovation engine? And can they be both? Are nonprofit society's safety net or its innovation engine? And can they be both? Dr. Loretta, what do you think?
I think they can be both. Part of it is because when it comes to nonprofits, many of them are deeply rooted in the communities and the areas of, the individuals that they might serve. So I think they can be a safety net, especially in situations where, people might fall through the cracks regarding, the corporate and government and things like that. But then also, I think they can also be innovative because so many great ideas come from nonprofits. Someone has a vision, as Dennis has been talking about, and they think about something they can do that's really going to help people to make maybe society better. And they can start it with that nonprofit. So many grassroots organizations have, literally blossomed and helped so many people. So yeah, I think it can be both.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Loretta. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I certainly agree with Dr. Loretta. A couple of things here. Think about both, but think about this for a second. I could use the example of Make-A-Wish or Susan G. Komen for the Cure. So Susan G. Komen for the Cure. Susan G. Komen was a woman that was misdiagnosed for probably a decade on breast cancer, and believe her family was relatively wealthy family, well off. And when she was eventually diagnosed, it was sort of too late to do much about it back then. And she asked her sister to make sure that, this doesn't happen to anybody else. So think about Susan G. Komen for the Cure, how much they've done to help women, maybe remember women, deal with breast cancer, care, the fear, but the support. So think about, where did that come from?
Mm.
It's amazing. Think about Make-A-Wish. So if you don't know this, so people say, where did Make-A-Wish come from? Well, in 1980, there was a young boy named Chris. I think he was about 9 years old in Arizona. And he had leukemia. It was sad. And his mother was trying to find, and he wanted to be a policeman, like a lot of kids. And so his mother tried to find a police officer in Arizona that could, because there was no father in the household.
Mm.
So found a police officer, and he would take him for a ride in his car in between chemotherapy treatments. And eventually, he took him on a helicopter ride, and the kid became the first an honorary public safety officer in Arizona.
Wow. Wow.
And the boy said to his mother, "Mom, it's okay for me to die now." Think about how's that.
Wow.
Now, there was a funeral in Illinois. The mother and this police officer went, and on the way back, they said, maybe we should help another child with it. So they raised $2,500 for another kid, and then something happened. They were on public television, and because of that, Make-A-Wish has done thousands and thousands of wishes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So I think social innovation has come to a lot of organizations,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of universities.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important. That is a key part of our society.
Yep.
But we're still stuck, for lack of a better term, in a political division in this country, with political forces that see the other party as the opposition, not something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's both resistance to change, but I do think the nonprofit creates a lot of innovation that we have, and there's a lot of good things.
Yeah, no, and I've got to agree with both of you. I think you answered this particular question from the audience member well. I mean, I think the question isn't whether nonprofits should be society's safety net or its innovation engine. It's how we can support each other and them being both, which means rethinking, things in terms of funding structures or performance metrics or capacity building to recognize the most efficient, powerful way to engage the communities that we co-create with. So thank you for those answers. And again, audience, continue to send those questions in to us as
And
well.
Andre, if I could just add this quickly,
Please.
it's the glue that keeps us together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's the glue that
Absolutely.
keeps us together because
I
it's
love
not
that.
worried about affordable housing and there's a make a profit. We can get
Right.
homeless people housing. I mean, it's a challenge, but there's things we can do.
Absolutely. Great. Dr. Loretta,
Absolutely.
any further
Great, great. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to switch a little bit and look into the future or have Dennis look into the future.
questions?
So, Dennis, what do you see? Okay. If you could mandate one change across the entire nonprofit sector, and that's the hospitals, the universities, and the grassroots, all we've talked about, what would you create? What would create the most impact if you could make a change?
Yeah, you might be surprised, but I would mandate that besides having a mission statement about why they exist, their purpose, I would have this. How will we measure our success? I would want every organization to spend time with how do we measure our success? How do we measure the impact we're having? I think that would get people out of just today, out of today and
Mhm.
making sure the windows are closed or the windows are open. I would mandate about having a visionary thinker. And I know this from my work over the past 20 years at least. Boards used to set the vision and want Andre and yourself to come in and make it happen.
Mhm.
Nowadays, they want Andre to come in or you, Loretta. They want people to come in and you tell us the vision.
Mm.
And if I don't like if it, I'm going to give you a little story about myself here. So the last hospital I was president of, and I took it over in 1999. The vision was to be the best community hospital in the state, and it was New Jersey.
Mm.
And I'm like, what does that mean? There's 80 of them. So what do you mean you're going to be the best community hospital in New Jersey? How do you measure? How would you know? And no one knew the mission, vision, and it didn't matter. It was like something on a backroom shelf.
Right.
And I, with my other team, what we created a vision was we were going to be the most clinically improved hospital in the country.
Mm.
And we created criteria both on clinical matters, morbidity, mortality. It was financial matters. And we were recognized in two ways as the best improved hospital in the country. But more importantly, when I took it over, I found out, and we had one of the lowest patient satisfactions in the country. We were in the 9th percentile. And no one on the board talked about it, but I realized the mission, I mean, the image of the hospital in the community was, and I tell people, if you go to a restaurant and they constantly get your order wrong or forget to deliver the martini to you on time or whatever, you're not going back.
Mhm.
Right. We created a role that reminded people why we're here to serve. And we trained people and encouraged them. And what happened? I set a goal that we would be in the top 25% of patient satisfaction in the United States. And you know what happened? We became top 1% in the United States.
Wow.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing.
yeah, and it's not about me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about what mandate would I have? I think it's really about vision, impact, measures, success.
Absolutely. Yep. Right.
It's great. Great. Well, I'm gonna just piggyback on that with one more thing. 5 years from now, what will separate thriving nonprofits for those that merely survived?
The ones that will survive and thrive will be able to do this. They need to know that people will donate to success, not to stress.
Ah, I like that.
And they will be able to, and they're doing it now, articulate the achievements and the success they're having with people's lives or whatever it's going to be. And I say this to people all the time. Yeah, people give them money because they've been asked to give to someone they trust, respect. They give to see a difference. But here's the two things
Mhm.
that makes a difference in philanthropy today. They give to success, not to stress. And I'm going to tell you about an example. And they give to the needs of those you serve, not your organizational needs.
Mm.
So I'm going
Ah, yeah.
to, Joe, if I can, here's a quick story. So there's both what I call the tin cup theory of philanthropy and the investment theory.
Mm.
So when I was a young kid, a couple of years ago, my mother would take me, my brother, and sisters occasionally, if they had any money. My mother would take us into New York City to see the Christmas show at the Radio City Music Center, and it was a beautiful show. But we took a bus, but who was outside the Port Authority bus terminal was a disheveled looking guy, looked a little bit like me and Andre, sitting on a cardboard box
Right.
with a tin cup selling pencils.
Yeah.
And it was begging. I'm begging you to buy my pencil so I can get off this
Mhm.
thing. Too many of us think of fundraising as begging.
Mm.
And I have this, and we teach this to our clients is this. Most board members, as good as they are, would rather have a root canal than have to ask somebody for money because they feel they may be asked to give them money, but it feels like personal rejection.
Mm.
So you got to change it from giving to our needs, we're desperate. Without us money, we're going to go out of business. We go out of business. So the ones that are going to thrive are the ones that can tell the community, look at the success we're having, but not better idea is this. Have those you serve tell their story about the success they're having. Not just you as the board member or the CEO. And I don't know how much time, but can I tell you a really quick story or not? I got a quick story.
We're coming on close to a break, but go ahead, make it quick.
Okay. So many years ago, I did work for an organization that dealt with domestic violence. And make a long story short, I helped them change their thinking the way I just talked about it here. And I asked them at their gala coming, I said, is there anybody who could tell their story? And at first they said, well, it's all confidential, it's private. They said, no, I think this one woman might want. So I said, could I talk to her just for 5 minutes? So they had this gala, beautiful gala, well attended, tuxedos, shoulderless dresses, all the beautiful stuff. Nice in a community that was pretty well off. And make sure the woman gets up and tells the story. And it was, but then eventually she said how she met her future husband in high school. He wasn't, emotionally, but maybe a little bit physical control. And she talks about the process. And then she said, we got married and then he burnt the house down when the kids were in it.
Oh, God.
And people grabbed their throats. And she said, my daughter survived. He went to prison. But because of this organization, we have a new home, we have a new life, and we're all doing very well. And people got it. They heard it. And so to me, this is what I'm passionate about, trying to get the sector to change because it does so well today, but it can do so much better tomorrow. And that's who's going to survive.
Absolutely. I agree with that, sharing those stories, because that's what people really will. They go for knowing the success story. So I really like what you have said. People will donate to success and not stress. I wrote that down.
Yeah, that's
I'll
right.
give you credit for
Yep,
it.
absolutely, absolutely. Hey, we've got to take another short break. I mean, this has been great talking with Dennis C. Miller. But when we return, we want to take you through a rapid fire questioning, Dennis, and you got to keep the answers real short. And I also want you to share a little bit about your new book that has just come out as well. And so, audience, please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. We are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I am your co-host, Dr. Dre, along with my co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard, and Dr. Cheryl White is out this week. We have another, again, a wonderful guest, the great Dennis C. Miller, who has joined us and really dropping some great knowledge and really some good perspective on this nonprofit 3.0. We want to get into our rapid fire round, and Dennis, we're going to ask you very quickly a series of questions, and we want you to respond to them. So, Dr. Loretta, you want to take Dennis through this and see how well he does?
Yeah, let's go. We can do this, Dennis. We can do this. Okay, so just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, after working with hundreds of CEOs, what's the number one trait that you feel predicts success?
Two things. They are relationship people. They make people feel listened to, cared for, heard. And they also have the ability to visualize the future. And I think those are the two things that matter.
Okay, great. Name the most common board delusion.
The board thinks their job is just to say all in favor, say aye. That to me is the biggest. Their board's role is to make the organization achieve success.
Okay. The one board member type every nonprofit needs but rarely has.
An inspirational leader,
Inspirational.
an innovative thinker.
All right. Did starting from poverty make you a better or tougher leader?
Yeah, I think not, growing up with not having enough, not having any parenting. I don't want to start crying, like not having a parent that told me they loved me and had to fight through that to my life. And I love my mother and I wish she was alive. I could talk to her. Um, it made a real life for me about yeah, it made it life. I understood what other people needed, and I had the ability somehow, don't ask me how, to become what I became. So I think I can say I reached my potential.
Okay.
But yeah, I think yes, it helped me quite a bit. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, great. Your biggest failure that became your greatest teacher.
That's easy. I was too trusting. I trusted everybody. I could never imagine someone would hurt me or stab me in the back. And I had that once or twice. So I had to learn from that. It caused failure, but it led to my success. But trust people, but be careful who you trust them.
Absolutely, I agree with that. After writing 6 books, what questions do nonprofits still refuse to ask?
We got to go on for another session. I think again, they just refuse to ask, how are we doing? How are we doing? And I'm not going to take, I have another sir, but I won't take it because you don't have the time, but how are we doing? And how are you perceiving us? Yeah, how are we doing?
Okay, great. And the last one, your most controversial nonprofit opinion.
Oh boy. I think I don't know, that's probably controversial. I think the most is the idea that the board's role is not just to oversee things. The board's role is to partner with the executive director, CEO. I use CEO, executive interchangeably, but I think, partner with them so they feel it's going to be, so it's not just, okay, I'll see you next month, but it's like, hey, Andre, I met someone. I think we should meet him. I think we should find a way to meet him in, have a tour, have lunch. I think it's more of a way of ownership of helping the organization make success. So it is the equivalency of the coach on the sidelines getting in and maybe actually running a play.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. You did a fabulous job, Dennis.
Did
We'll
he
go
really,
into
did he
detail
really
on
do
a
a fabulous
side
job,
note.
Dr. Loretta? Did he really do a fabulous job? Okay, yeah, he did. He did great.
He
did great.
did. He
Okay.
did.
All right. Hey, I know our time is coming down to an end here, but I want to get in about your new book quickly. What every nonprofit CEO should know, a guide to achieving your organization's true potential. You kind of lay out 5 factors that must happen to achieve your true potential. Can you just give a very high level brief
Yeah,
of the book?
There's 5 factors in the book. One is that you have to have an inspirational, motivational vision with measures of success. Number two, you need to have transitional competencies of a CEO today, not the old ones that they're important, but not just mission driven, but you need more of an entrepreneur type thing. Three, you want an engaged and motivated, but well-trained board, and you got to invest in that success. Fourth, you need to have a positive brand. You got to let people know you're a success and achievements. You can't be bashful about that. And then fifth, you want to have a culture of success and philanthropy and understand that the board, the CEO, and development, all three have to work together in a tri-partnership. That's what will make you reach your potential. And so many organizations have a difficult time doing that because they don't know that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's a definitely
Right.
it's a must read. So I can't wait to delve into it. So thank you, Dennis.
All right, we're going to change direction here a little bit. So we're asking all of our guests to share with us what they hope for and what brings them joy. So, Mr. Dennis C. Miller, what are you hoping for? And it doesn't have to be around nonprofits, just what do you hope for and what brings you joy?
Well, what I hope for is my wife's health gets better. It's something that's been, I've lived with and she's lived with for a long time. What brings me joy is a smile on my grandson's face. Yeah, I tell people, I have a 10-year-old grandson named Gavin. I just can't get enough of him. I'll see him this Saturday night. We're having a granddaughter on the way. I just find grandchildren just make me smile. There's nothing they can do wrong. And I'm fortunate to have one that's very well behaved and very smart.
I agree with you about those grandchildren. They do something too. It's a different love. I can't explain it.
Yes, it is like, I love my kids, but
Yes, yes.
I love my grandkids the most.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we're down to about our final minute or so here. Dennis, any final thoughts or tips you'd like to share with our listening audience, and how can they contact you if they wanted to?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you both of you for inviting me to be on your show today. It's simple. My website is Dennis C, as in Charles, DennisCMiller.com. My email is dennis@DennisCMiller.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Dennis C. Miller LinkedIn. Hook up with me. I welcome us to have a virtual consultation with you. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to do it, no charge. I love what I do. I give back because of all the blessings I've had from God.
Yeah, excellent.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with the great Dennis C. Miller, and certainly is tied to values and really an authentic leader. And we appreciate that in you, Dennis, as part of the process. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for engaging us in this conversation around the Nonprofit 3.0 as well. So we again appreciate you and thank you for spending time with us.
My
We
pleasure.
want to also continue to invite our audience to send those questions in. Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org. Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org. Drop us a line. How are we doing? Give us some feedback. What else should we be talking about on this show? We love to hear from you as part of your voice on this particular show. But join us every Wednesday on YouTube, 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, or download our podcast at your convenience on demand. So until next time, on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions, Dr. Loretta and I want to say thank you for joining us. Until next time.